Shields up, Iron Breakers. Burkan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter World, and today I'm going to be sharing with you two of my sword and shield builds. This time around we're going to be focusing on the Kjárr Slicer weapons that come from Kulve Taroth, as well as an update to my previous Frostcraft build for the sword and shield that a lot of you guys seem to have enjoyed. So I updated it with the new Raging Brachydios armor pieces to kind of like slip in some secret agitator in there and make it that much more powerful. But anyway, let's start things off with the Kjárr Slicers. Now, on this particular build, we're going to be using the Kjárr Slicer King, but it's very easy to swap around for the different elements that you might want for a build like this. All you got to do is put in a different Kjárr variant, and basically you have a different element to play around with. So, with the Kjárr Slicer King, you can see that we have 431 attack, which is not the attack that this weapon comes with. We got 15% affinity. This weapon is not fully augmented yet because most likely I will end up adding the additional affinity on there. Like right now we only have health regen because I actually don't have that many Great Spirit Vein gems right now, and I need to go farm some more on the grinding lands. But yeah, we got 390 fire, and we have, you know, the one slot, and we have 20 defense bonus, and naturally we have critical element thrown in because it's one of the Kjárr Slicers, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to make a build like this to begin with. Now, a lot of you guys are going to be quick to point out, like, why do you only have 390 fire? Why aren't you focusing more around the element? Because personally, and this is something that is very personal to me, I really like dealing damage with the shield, and I always feel like if you over focus on the elemental side of sword and shield, you always end up losing a little bit on the shield bash, and you kind of are like, oh, I shouldn't do the shield bash in this situation. I should instead go for more elemental attacks, like maybe do the infinite combo, or, you know, just do perfect rush and kind of like avoid the shield down. I don't like playing like that. So what I did was I went into the custom augmentation of my Kjárr Slicer and I just stacked it full of raw damage. If you want to go ahead and stack it full of elemental damage, go for it. But do bear in mind that this build is more around squeezing as much raw damage as possible out of the weapon, and then just having the elemental damage be a nice bonus addition to the whole package than necessarily focusing exclusively on the elemental playstyle like I probably believe most people will. So keep that in mind. This is just like a very playstyle thing that personally I like it more like this. I'm not saying it's the better way of playing it, but I do think it is a way in which I'm allowed to use this build on a lot more monsters, whereas a lot of people, it's like, hey, this monster's elemental hit zones, they're not that great, so I'm going to be swapping to this different build, going to go with raw, whatever. This build, you can use it on whatever you want, so long as it's somewhat weak to fire. That's the whole point of my builds. I like to do builds that are effective in a lot of situations and that are very comfortable to use. So, in terms of custom augmentations, full raw damage. In terms of regular augmentations, my ideal would be health regen, and then affinity increase, and then element status effect up. Now, in terms of the armor pieces that we're going to be rocking here, we're going to go for 3-piece Teostra, because I want to get that Teostra's technique. And we're going to go for 2-piece Brachydios mail, so that we get the secret agitator to stick it in there and just get as much raw damage as possible out of it. So, we got the Kaiser Crown Beta with the Challenger Vitality. We have a Vitality Jewel in the sword itself. As a matter of fact, this build is so simple that, considering that most people will have a ton of Vitality Jewels, you can just swap the swords around, just stick them all with Vitality Jewels, and you don't even need to save like 5 different sets. You just swap the blades around if you want. But yeah, you got Kaiser Crown Beta with Challenger Vitality. You got Brachydios Male Beta with Brace Vitality. This is another one of those that is optional. If you play mostly solo, you're not going to need Brace, obviously. But if you do play with friends, having that Brace there is always useful. We have Critical Deco and an Expert Deco. We got Kaiser Van Bracers Beta, Challenger Jewel +4. And I know that a lot of people don't have Agitators +4. I have 3 of them. I'm sorry. I've been somewhat lucky in terms of Agitator +4s. If you don't have them, I really don't know what to tell you. There's no substitute for them in this particular build. I mean, I guess you can get rid of the attack charm and just go for challengers there if you have some attack to make up for it, but, you know, that's going to depend from case-by-case basis. But yeah, then we have another Critical Jewel. We got the Kaiser Coil Beta with Challenger Jewel +4, Critical Jewel 2, Expert Jewel, Brachydios Greaves Beta, Flight Expert. You guys know that by now, at least you should know that I really like the Helm Breaker of the sword and shield. That's why I got the flight deco in there. If you don't like the helm breaker all that much, feel free to swap that for something else. And then you got 2 expert jewels, and we wrap everything up with an attack charm 5. We got a glider mantle, which you might want to swap around depending on the monster that you're fighting. We got Phoenix evasion in there together with KO evasion to get a little bit more KO whenever you pop the glider mantle, and the temporal mantle with 2 maintenance decos with the objective of just maintaining the uptime on your glider mantle so that you can deal as much damage as possible and take advantage of the additional skills that way. You guys might be wondering, why just 1 Phoenix? Because 1 Phoenix is 12 attack power as well as 30 element, so it's pretty significant just for 1 tiny investment of 1 deco. So I always like to try and squeeze 1 into my sets whenever there's enough space to put 1. And the KO is because, like I told you, I like the shield bash thing, so a little bit of KO is never really going to hurt. But these are optional and you can really put whatever the hell you want in there. Now, if you take a look at the finalized build, you got Critical Eye level 7, Agitator level 7, Attack Boost level 5. As a matter of fact, depending on how much more affinity you put in, you might want to swap in some Critical Eye for additional attack boost. But as you guys know, I like to go overkill on affinity so that I can swing away in whatever part of the monster I feel like it, as opposed to being forced to target a specific part, because I'm lazy. I like comfiness, man. But if you guys are more focused on speed running, then yeah, potentially remove some of the critical eyes, put those on attack boost for additional damage, and make sure to soften the part of the monster you're attacking, and you should still be hitting 100% crit, maybe even more whenever you proc Agitator, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Then you got health boost level 3 for maximum comfiness. You got critical boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3. You got level 2 blast attack that comes from the Kaiser Coil Beta. Not a whole lot you can do about it because Kaiser Coil Beta is just one of the best parts to achieve Teostra's technique because of the slots. It just comes with 2 blast attacks, so it is what it is. You got Heat Guard from the Kaiser Van Braces, which is actually quite useful. There's a lot of monsters nowadays, they use fire as a major hazard, so having that Heat Guard just kind of built in is actually rather nice. You got the Airborne, you got Latent Power, which comes from the helmet if I'm not mistaken. You got 1 flinch free, which again is optional. You got the Critical Element, comes in from the sword, 2 evade windows when your glider mantle is up, 2 specialists when your temporal mantle is up. You got 1 slugger, 1 coalescence with your glider mantle, and naturally you have Teostra's technique and Agitator secret. This set, I really like running it. I think it's a really fun set, does a lot of damage. Again, I did not focus as much as I could in terms of elemental damage because I like my builds to be viable for a wide variety of monsters. It's supposed to be very focused on monsters with good elemental hit zones. So again, your mileage may vary depending on what you prefer, but the good thing about it is that you can basically adapt it to whatever you want. Like for instance, you want to focus more on the elemental side of things, swap the attack charm for an elemental charm of your choosing. Boom, Bob's your uncle, you got max elemental damage. Swap the custom augments from raw damage into elemental damage. Boom, more elemental damage. So you can basically use the basis of this build and stack it full of elemental damage if that's what you really want. But you're not forced to it. You can also have the raw damage build, which is viable for a wider array of monsters, which is the way that I like to play. So it's just, you know, it's very adaptable. You can play around with it. You can fiddle around and just like get it done to whatever you prefer. Now, in terms of the Frostcraft build update, as you guys can see, we have our Safi's Frostfang right here. We have the same awakened abilities that we had before in the previous version of this build with 3 attack up 5s, 1 sharpness up 6, and Velkhana's Divinity. But my weapon no longer has the augmentations because I haven't really played Frostcraft in a good long while, so I had to remove the augmentations to use the materials in another weapon. But if you guys are wondering, the augmentations would have been health regen, affinity increase, and element status effect up. So you could get 10% more affinity and a little bit more element. I believe it's 30 more, so it'd be 180 ice as opposed to 150. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, what's the big difference between, you know, playing Frostcraft style or playing regular sword and shield? Well, Frostcraft is more about the burst damage. So you'll deal a lot more damage in your first couple of hits, but then you need to sheath your weapon to recover the Frostcraft effect, and then you can go and hit. So it's ideal for monsters that don't give you a lot of openings, right? Whereas the other playstyles of Sword and Shield that don't require to constantly sheet because they're not Frostcraft focused, you can just really wail in on monsters. And I've been playing more like that recently, which is why Frostcraft hasn't seen as much action. That's not to say that it's a bad playstyle. It's just a different playstyle, and I haven't been engaging with it as much. But I still wanted to update it with the new Raging Brachydium pieces. Now, on the weapon itself, we're going to be putting Phoenix Protection, and then on the Rhymegarm Helmet Beta, we're going to be using Phoenix Vitality. Now, I'm pointing these out from the get-go because these are actually not the ideal decorations that I would like to put here. I would actually like to have 2 attack plus 4 decos, but those quite simply don't exist in the game, so instead I opted for maxing out my Coalescence. But if you have 2 attack plus 4 decos, then those would be the ones that I would put in these 2 slots. Now anyway, in terms of the armor pieces that we're going to be using in order to get the Frostcraft set bonus, I'm using the helmet, the gloves, and the belt because I wanted to get Secret Agitator in here, like I told you. And 2 of the better pieces of the set, in my opinion, are the chest piece and the legs. So these are the 2 pieces that I went with. And as you guys can see, we have those in the build. Now, the after the Phoenix Vitality, we have a Critical Jewel. Then on the chest piece, we got Critical Vitality, Critical Jewel, and Expert. On the Vambrace, we got Tenderizer Vitality. On the Rhymeguard Coil, we got Flight, Expert, and Expert. Again, Flight, because I like Helmbreaker. If you don't care for Helmbreaker, replace this with something else that you like, maybe more attack if you happen to have it. Well, on the Greaves, we have Expert plus 4, Expert, Expert, which maxes out our Critical Eye. And then on the Glider Mantle, we have Phoenix Evasion and KO Evasion, and Temporal Mantle with 2 Maintenance Jewels as usual to get my initial wallbang. And the whole set wraps up with a Challenger Charm 5 to get maximum Agitator out of this. Now, if we take a look at the finalized build, we got Critical Eye level 7, Agitator level 7, Health Boost, Critical Boost, Weakness Exploit, Divine Blessing level 3, which makes it a really comfortable playstyle. And, you know, depending on your level of expertise, of course. You got 2 levels of Flinch Free, which is overkill, but unfortunately it's kind of hard to play around with the Velkhana armor pieces. We got level 2 Coalescence or level 3 when we put the Glider Mantle up, like I said. I'd rather have attack 4, but I don't have the decorations to make that happen, so this is what we end up with. And then we also have Airborne, 1 Quick Sheet, 2 Evade Windows, 2 Tool Specialists, and 1 Slugger when we have Glider Mantle up. This gives us Critical Element, Frostcraft, and Agitator Secret, which is pretty good. In terms of results, this still deals more damage than the previous set that I told you guys in the first couple of hits, but that was in the pull, and the pull is not ideal like in the training grounds. It's not ideal to really test out in terms of elemental damage and whatnot, so your mileage is going to vary depending on the monster that you're fighting. But still, it's a pretty decent set for you to get a lot of burst damage in. There might be some further optimization that you can do in this set, but like I said, I just wanted to update it to add the Agitator level 7 in there. It's not really a set that I've been using all that much, so let me know in the comment sections what you think. But the Kjárr one, in my opinion right now, shows a little bit more promise for the playstyles that I've been using. But as always, let me know in the comments what you guys think about these builds. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy the video, hit the dislike button. Feedback, as always, is important. And that is also feedback that can be left in the comments section in the form of a comment as well. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. Remember to stay safe, stay strong, may your shields never break, wash your hands, stay indoors if you can, all the usual stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.